warm welcome, Your Excellencies, ladies, gentlemen, friends, partners, colleagues, everyone. Welcome to the British Library, where I have the great pleasure of being Chief Executive, and welcome to a little bit of London that is forever Jaipur.
There is a sense of intense homecoming as we return, even though virtually, to JLF in London. It's been a huge privilege to partner with the British Library, and this collaboration has been so full of joy and learning.
It's a particular pleasure for me to come back to the British Library, which has been my office in London for many years, and where my books have all been written and researched, and it's very nice to see this end of my life sort of double back on it.
Our amazing writers, today more than any time, because of the way the digital age has taken over, we need you to be able to make sense of the past, divine the future, and perhaps set in context what we're going through at this very point of time.
This is the first time I've been to it in London. I've been to the one in Rajasthan before, and it's fantastic. It's got a different vibe here, but it's equally wonderful here.
JLF brings this amazing festival to London. It's a wonderful get-together of writers and thinkers, and you know, I only go to one festival, literature festival in the world, and it's this one.
The people who've been here, both bookshop customers, the authors and the organisers, have been an absolute delight to work with. I can honestly say as well that this is the best dressed, most elegantly dressed crowd at any literary festival I've ever seen anywhere.
It's maintained the standards which I'm accustomed to in Jaipur itself, and I'm extremely happy to be part of it here.
I love this festival. I think it's a privilege for me.
JLF deserves enormous congratulation for the way that it puts its program together here. I think that all of the events are superbly chaired. I think that the setting here in the British Library is just a fantastic environment.
Excellency High Commissioner of India to the United Kingdom, Srimati Gayatri Sarkumar, Roly Keating, Chief Executive of British Library, Director General, Indian Council for Cultural Relations, Mr. Dinesh Patnaik, our wonderful writers and speakers, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Aga Khan Foundation UK, Akshata Murthy and the Murthy Family Foundation, our partners British Library, and all my colleagues at Team Book Arts, we welcome you to our first virtual edition of the JLF London at the British Library. This is JLF's 7th year in London. While we are unable to receive you in person, we promise you that if technology permits, we will transport you into a land of literature and ideas and debate, discuss, and discover aspects on fiction, science, women in war, Bollywood films, history, music, and poetry over the next few days at JLF London at the British Library. We thank all our partners, the Aga Khan Foundation UK, for always having our back and supporting us wholeheartedly. A big thank you to our patron, the Murthy Family Foundation, for coming on board with their support for the festival. Thank you, the Indian High Commission in the UK, Her Excellency Gayatri Sarkumar, the Nehru Centre and its director Amish Tripathi, DGICCR Dinesh Patnaik, and British Council for your support. Big thanks to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Chief Executive of the British Library and our JLF London partner, Roly Keating, to welcome you all.
Welcome. Hello, I'm Roly Keating. I'm Chief Executive here at the British Library, and it's a total pleasure to welcome you, everyone around the world, all our friends at Jaipur Literary Festival, to virtual JLF at the British Library. This wonderful building behind me has been too quiet over these summer months. We're just beginning to get back to a bit of physical life, but the beauty of a digital festival is that we can welcome friends from all over the planet to listen to the fantastic agenda that's been put together for the festival this weekend. So welcome to the library, to the home of words, the home of people who love words. Welcome to all our guests, and enjoy the festival.
Thank you, Roly, for your warm words. And we would like to thank Jamie Andrews, Conrad Bodman, John Fawcett, B. Rowlett, and their team members from the British Library for their continuous help and support. It is now my pleasure to invite the Indian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Her Excellency Gayatri Sirkumar, to address the audience.
Mr. Roly Keating, Teamwork Arts, I congratulate you for once again bringing the iconic Jaipur Literary Festival to London. I'm particularly enthused as this unique festival has evolved over the decades into a highlight of the calendar of the literary world, and this year it's in London. It's going to be a platform to celebrate the shared cultural and literary traditions of our two countries. New Delhi and London have for generations celebrated scholarly, academic and literary and artistic exchanges. So I'm really happy that it's happening once again. Over the decades, many British scholars have dedicated their lives to the study of India's rich heritage, and there are hundreds of handwritten notes and drawings that lovingly document so many aspects of our history and heritage. There are so many examples of our contemporary contacts enriching each other, and it's festivals such as this that create a focal point which is anticipated with great enthusiasm every year. This year, once again, it will be a platform of eminent luminaries of the world of arts and letters, and despite the global pandemic, the fact that they're coming together reflects their strong commitment and spirit to ensure that this year too this unique event takes place, the spirit that the show must go on and that we must keep this cherished tradition alive. And I strongly support this sentiment because I do believe that we must preserve this. These are occasions when in a confluence of thinkers, we have a coming together of diverse ideas and opinions which are so valuable. These are occasions when thought leaders, which are a key element of the living bridge between India and the UK, are able to engage freely, share ideas, and inspire each other, maybe come up with new and positive concepts that serve to further cement the linkages between our open democratic societies. And in this context, I think it is apt that the title of the opening session is Brave New World, because it is indeed sheer resolve of human spirit that has made us work for such interactive spaces and reflect and reboot, review, and create new ways of communicating and being in touch. And such spaces in the India-UK context are the veritable heartbeat of our living bridge. Obviously, there will be a diverse and even divergent range of views and opinions, but this is what a healthy debate really is all about. New ideas and indeed the comprehensive truth and higher philosophies and ideals and theories. These are good for society, and they emerge not necessarily from perfect agreement, but from vigorous and civilized discussions and parleys, and that is what is so valuable. Obviously, everyone will miss the stimulating electric atmosphere of congregating and jostling and arguing and discussing in person. And obviously, everyone is looking forward to the time when all this will be possible. But I'm very sure that everyone is equally glad at this opportunity to engage as usual, at least virtually. And so as India and the UK enter into a new era of our excellent multidimensional relationship post-Brexit, when the UK is finding its own space and its new identity, there's much to look forward to in outcomes from such a confluence of creative energies. And I'm confident that this year's festival will, as before, lead to a flow of constructive and positive flows in both directions, and will reinforce the strong literary contacts between our two countries, India and the UK, to create closer synergies and enhance mutual understanding between our two peoples. I personally look forward to engaging with as many of the Indian and particularly the British stakeholders as possible in the coming days. So I once again congratulate the British Library, the Aga Khan Foundation and the Murthy Foundation for hosting this iconic virtual event, and I offer Teamwork Arts my best wishes for the success of this event. Thank you very much and all the very best. Namaste.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your support. And now, I invite our friend, supporter, and close partner, Matt Reed, Global Director of Institutional Partnerships for the Aga Khan Foundation, to please say a few words.
Hi, I'm Matt Reed, CEO of the Aga Khan Foundation in London, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the Jaipur Literature Festival at the British Library. The Aga Khan Development Network has been active in India for over a century, and as the foundation, we have been working with people and communities for over 4 decades, helping them prioritize the issues that matter to them most, things like healthcare, education, women's empowerment, agriculture, climate change adaptation. In London, we support the festival as a way of helping introduce people in the UK and around the world to India and its vibrant culture. We want to give people a taste of the pluralism that has animated India for millennia. We are delighted that you've chosen to join us over the next few days. I hope that you enjoy the sessions, which represent a wide range of thought in India and around the world, and underscore the way that India has been in dialogue with its neighbors and the rest of the world for thousands of years. We want to bring that spirit of inquiry and pluralism here to you over the internet this time. It's unfortunate we can't be together, but we look forward to another time when we can join together in person. Thanks very much, and I hope you enjoy the next few days.
Thank you, Matt, for your warmth and for sharing our vision. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome festival producer, Managing Director, Teamwork Arts, Sanjay Roy.
Thank you so much, Ankur, and thank you so much, Matt Reed and Christopher Wilton of the Aga Khan Foundation. High Commissioner of India to the UK, Gayatri, thank you so much for coming on board and of course to our partners, the British Library, Rolly Keating and his colleagues Jamie Andrews, Conrad, John Fawcett, and B. Rowlatt. We would really have loved to be there in person to receive each and every one of you like we normally do to celebrate the 7th JLF London. But the pandemic has foiled our best laid plans. Even as we mark the 19th anniversary of 9/11 that changed the world forever, we're now in the midst of yet another global event that has changed the way we work, travel, and trade. When the lockdown was first announced, we realized the importance of ensuring a free flow of knowledge and information across international and national boundaries. And we launched JLF's Brave New World on 4th April and JLF's Words Are Bridges, focusing on translations. We hosted over 120 episodes with wonderful speakers, including Nobel laureates, Man Booker, Commonwealth, Sahitya Academy, JCB, DSC, and crossword award-winning writers to talk about a slew of subjects, everything from the advent of COVID and the pandemic, to the economies of the world, to philosophy, to governance, to literature and poetry, and so much more. We were able to reach over 4 million people. None of this has been easy. It's been quite difficult to reinvent, to reboot, to innovate, but we've done so. The arts sector itself has been decimated, not just in India, but across the world. And we believe it's absolutely vital and important for us to continue to create platforms for excellence, for debate and discussion in the way that we have in the past. We would love for each and every one of you to help support JLF at London and the British Library by donating generously. This year, as you know, we're not ticketing this particular JLF festival in London, but we look to you for your support to be able to make us financially strong in these coming months. Thank you all once again for being such wonderful supporters of the festival. We promise to be back in 2021. We will fight the good fight, and we will always be there. Thank you. May I please invite Namita Gokhale and William Dalrymple to say a few words about the program of JLF London and just tell us what we have in store for us over the next few days.
Friends in London, friends in India, friends around the world. The world has changed. It's become larger, it's become smaller, it's contracted. But we are able today, for our British Library edition of JLF, able to reach out to you in every corner where there is bandwidth and somewhere there isn't. We've got an absolutely wonderful, startling, relevant, entertaining set of sessions ahead, and I'm so delighted to be communicating in any way at all with all of you, though I sorely miss the beautiful venues and the feel of the British Library, which is such a repository of archival memory. And so on behalf of William Dalrymple, Sanjoy Roy, Kritika, Anubhav, so many of us who have slaved over this program, and all of you who over the last 1 year have helped us keep our digital profile alive, thank you very, very much. Do join in, do applaud, do laugh along, do shed a tear where necessary, and the show must go on. Thank you.
Welcome to Jaipur on Thames, our annual outing to the British Library, our home away from home. It's always a particularly exciting moment for me because the British Library was the nearest thing I've ever had to an office. For many years during the research of my company Quartet, I would go into the India office and rootle around finding documents, and some of the highlights of those documents are with you today as a special film included in this package. But we are hugely looking forward to this online version. Obviously, it's sad that you can't join us all in person as normally, but we're doing the best we can under the COVID circumstance, and I think it's a particularly good lineup this year. So I hope you enjoy what we've laid on for you, and we hope very much to be back in person this time next year.
Thank you, Namita. Thank you, William, for all the work that you have put into creating the program for JLF London at the British Library. And now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite Ambassador Dinesh Patnaik and Georgina Godwin to begin their conversation. Dinesh Patnaik is a career diplomat of the Indian Foreign Service with experience of over 25 years in a variety of interesting and challenging assignments. He has served in Indian missions in Geneva, Dhaka, Beijing, and Vienna. He was India's ambassador to Cambodia from 2012 to 2015. He was India's ambassador to the Kingdom of Morocco from 2015 to 2016. He was Deputy High Commissioner of India to London from 2016 to 2018. And now he's currently Director General of the Indian Council for Cultural Relations. Georgina Godwin is a broadcast journalist and is books editor for Monocle 24 and a regular host of current affairs programs and cultural shows for various media outlets. Over to you, Georgina.
Thank you very much, and it's an honour to be here in this great company. So, Ambassador Patnaik, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
How do you see the role of the Indian Council of Cultural Relations, which for a UK audience, I should explain, is the equivalent of the British Council?
That's right, Georgina. We are the equivalent of the British Council, mandated and started in 1950 to basically develop mutual understanding between countries through cultural diplomacy. In today's term, what we call the premier soft power organization of India, which takes front all the different soft power aspects of India. So we deal with everything which is to develop cultural relations, academic relations, relations which are in the realm of soft power, relations which bring the oomph into the more political relationship. So that's what ICCI does.
So where do you feel that Britain and India can best intersect culturally?
Well, we've been intersecting for a long time. It's not that we will have to intersect. If you look at our cultural and historical relations, we go back a long way, and we go back too long, in fact. Sometimes, the legacy of the past should not bear on what we are doing at present, and that's what is great about this relationship. We haven't let the legacy of the past bear upon what we are doing currently. And currently we are doing a lot. I mean, what UK and India do is an example for all countries, how you can leave the past behind and make a relationship which builds on the past but creates a future which is different from it. So we are doing a whole lot of things, and you name it, any field. The relations are umbilical in nature. The relationship comes from a very deep-rooted cultural connection across both sides, not just with the diaspora, Indian diaspora there, or the Britishers who are still here, but with the new young generation. We need to work more on it, but still there is a great cultural linkages between both sides, which manifests itself in like the JLF and many other festivals which happen not only there, but also the great work British Council is doing in India. So if you put both together, there is a large number of things we're doing.
And how has this horrible global pandemic impacted your work?
It's impacted everybody, and it's impacted us because we had a host of programs planned out for this year, and we had to shelve everything. 2020 right now is a blank where programs offline were concerned. But in a sense, it's also given us a new medium, which if we are not forced to, we would never have used it, which is the online medium. And we find that you can reach out to a large number of people. But in the end, we have to master this medium. We are all new to this medium, and we still haven't learned how to master this medium, how to actually reach out. And the most important for culture is how do you monetize it? How do you draw benefits from other people? For example, JLF, they're doing it free of cost. If they would have done it in London, they would have had ticketing for it. So how do you monetize it? Because without the support of financial support to cultural organizations, culture will slowly wither away. Always in the past, it's been either the emperors, and today it's the state, or the big businesses, or the audience, which supports culture. So we have to see how this new medium helps us to put that into place.
I mean, I know here in Britain there's a danger of theatres closing. It's already too late for some venues. The arts are really, really suffering, and not just the venues themselves, but all the little industries downstream. So the theatrical lighting hire people, or the costumiers, or whatever. What is the Indian government then doing for the cultural industry to help it keep afloat during this time?
It's the same thing that governments all over the world are doing, which is basically you continue to do activities so that the artist community continues to work. You can give handouts only up to a certain extent. You can give handouts for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, probably a year. But beyond that, you have to create an ecosystem where the artist gets to work. Because at the end of the day, the artist doesn't want your freebies. He wants to work and show his talent. And you have to create that ecosystem. Now, for example, ICCR, we've been working for the last few months to put in place an online platform where artists can perform for the world and where they can get paid for it. And I'm hoping that in the next 1 or 2 months, we'll get to it. We did online art shows, we're doing online webinars, we're doing talk shows, we're doing performances, everything is being planned out. But the whole idea is this caught us by surprise. If we knew beforehand that this was coming, we would have probably prepared for it better.
Of course, of course. Have you seen a way that Indians within India engage with cultural activities during the crisis? So, for instance, are people reading more?
Well, there is no way to check whether people are reading more, but I expect they're reading more because Indians have a reading habit. And today, if you look at what Amazon is selling online, or what the different MOOCs that are being offered, the different books that are being released, you can see that there's a lot of activity happening online, which means that people are reading. We still haven't got any references as to how much have been sold, but Amazon says that on its book side, its sales have gone up since the last few months, which basically shows that people are reading more. But what basically happens is when you stay at home, you have to find a way to keep yourselves busy. And culture is one of the few things which you need at this time, not just to keep yourselves busy, but also to give you satisfaction that there is life happening. Because when you don't find that happening, then you get into despondency, and that is when the danger happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure.
I wonder how healthy the Indian publishing industry is.
Indian publishing industry needs a lot more to be healthier. It is healthy, but it needs a lot more. The English language press has a readership which is not as big as the vernacular press, the other languages. India has multiple languages. We have almost about 30 official languages if you look at the states. And we have a multiplicity of dialects, multiplicity of different languages. But the publishing industry, which is strong, it's still not become that big. Today, online has taken up in a big way. There are more people reading online than buying books. During the pandemic, we found few books in high-end places closing down because they couldn't afford the rentals, and they know that things won't happen. So it has affected them. But I think in the long run, it's not going to be bad for the publishing industry. You'll have to publish more e-books than publish real books. Anyway, that had come down to a large extent because people who travel, people who read cannot keep on compiling books. They actually rather read it on a Kindle or on a e-book rather than offline.
I wonder if there's enough of a crossover. So books sell in their millions in India, figures that are only a fantasy for British authors. But apart from the obvious big names, is there scope for more Indian authors to be published here in Britain?
Of course. There is a large number of Indian authors who are now publishing across the world. And JLF has been one of the few platforms which has actually encouraged these writers to go out and publish more and to write more. There are writers now in every nook and cranny in India. Many of them writing, of course, in the vernacular languages, whether it's a Hindi or Kannada or Odia or Bengali or other languages. But there is a large number of people now writing in English. And usually there used to be fiction of a different variety. But now fiction, like, for example, the head of the Nehru Center, Amish Tripathi, is one of the strongest fiction writers who took India's heritage and classics and made it into fiction of the modern age. So, there are lots of people doing fusion. There are superhero writings coming out of India, which I never thought would happen in the last 10 to 15 years. There are the pathos, the tragedy of life, love, romance, all these. There are a lot of writings which are coming, and new writing, which is wonderful to see, which is what is happening in India. And poetry, Georgina, I forgot. Poetry was always one of the most important things which Indians used to enjoy. Across all parts of India, poetry is one of the most important constituents of writing in India. And poetry in the vernacular language has efflorescence. It's really gone deep because the pandemic gives you a pathos on which to write. And I think that's what we have seen in the last 2 to 3 months, an efflorescence of writing on the pandemic, which has happened.
You mentioned Amish Tripathi there. I wonder how closely you work with the Nehru Centre.
Oh, well, very closely. Nehru Centre is part of the ICCR centres across the world. We have 39 centres. We also work through the embassies in many places. In some places, the centres are separate from the embassy. It's like the British Council. And Amish and I coordinate almost on a daily basis. So we work very closely. Very happy that Amish is there taking forward what ICCR does across the world.
I mean, as you say, he's obviously a huge selling writer in India. And there are a few Indian celebrities who are well known in Britain too. But mostly it seems to me that there are Indians who are well known in India and British Indians who are well known in Britain. But the twain never really meet. And I wonder if there's an opportunity for more intermingling between the two.
There is a lot of opportunity. In fact, there was a British Council report about 5 years back, 2015, which said that you need to make people aware. And it's basically the youth which need to be aware. There was a survey done which showed that almost 74% of Indians, when they were surveyed about whether they know about Britain, said yes, they know about Britain. And only 21% British actually knew about India. Now, I don't know whether it's got to do with the education system or they have other things to occupy them. But we need to increase the amount of knowledge that is there within both systems about each other. Because we have a lot of things in common. You take any Indian and leave him on the streets of London, he'll be very comfortable because he's read about all of this through his childhood. He may take a little time to accustom to the weather, but where the streets names are concerned and other things are concerned, he will be very, very, very comfortable.
Do you think that the British Indians, despite having the same roots, have slightly different cultural sensibilities than those who've never left India?
Cannot say. This is too sweeping a generalization. But the British Indian in Britain gets to admire more what he left behind in India than the Indian who is here, which happens to every diaspora in the world. When you leave a country and go out, you tend to admire what you left behind and to hold on to it. To a large extent, if you look at the Indian diaspora abroad anywhere in the world, they speak the language which was spoken in India about 100 years back. The idioms, the way the vernacular is used, the way the words are used. So in a way, they romanticize what was happening in India long before they left, when they left. And that is nice, but you have to move with the times. There's a modern India which is waiting to be seen by the world. Modern writers, bright young minds which want to go out and show themselves to the world. And that's where we need to focus on.
Now, the Indian government has taken yoga very, very seriously, promoting it across the world. And yoga normally works in conjunction with pranayama, essentially breathing exercises, and the Indian medicine system, Ayurveda. Do you have plans to expand into those other two areas too? And just tell us a little bit more about the whole yoga initiative.
See, yoga is something which Prime Minister Modi, in a sense, was the person who took it to the West in 2015 when we had the UN conference which declared June 21st as International Day of Yoga. And since then, we've been celebrating International Day of Yoga very big across the world. The whole idea about taking yoga was not to put the stamp of India on it. Everybody knew yoga came from India. But to actually generate both interest in India as well as in the rest of the world. And in a way, it has succeeded because today there is a huge interest across the world. People know about yoga, read about yoga, see its benefits. What the government is doing is we are trying to see how yoga can become a medicinal system, not only just yoga, but Ayurveda and other things. But what happens is most countries in the West need a pharmacopoeia, they need tests done, they need experiments done, they need scientific results as to the effect. So we are working with many universities, many institutes, many yoga centers, many medical colleges to do tests on how yoga has an effect on, for example, orthopedic, on mental health, on stress-free life, on physical well-being. There are a whole lot of things in which yoga is being used. So there is a lot of things happening. We have set up a yoga certification board which is now going to work to make sure that yoga across the world is taught in the way it was meant to be taught. So there's a systematic way because we got a lot of offshoots of yoga, from hot yoga to dancing yoga to all kinds of yoga, which is very nice. But in the end, someone has to keep the roots alive.
Absolutely. And Prince Charles seems to be one of those. I understand he's really keen on Ayurveda.
He is very keen on Ayurveda. In fact, when I was in London, he was actually leading the way in setting up the Ayurveda Center, which when Prime Minister Modi came, they inaugurated together, which is in Westminster College, if I remember right. In Westminster College, they've set up a center to do studies on how Ayurveda and yoga can help in alleviating a large number of diseases. This is what we need to go forward on much more. There is large amount of interest. I mean, we were making a list of the yoga institutes in London and in UK, and there are a huge amount of them, large number of them. But we need to make it such that they all propagate the same thing across the country and do the same kind of work. So that we'll be looking at, and Amish will be leading our effort in UK.
Ambassador, India has been much in the international foreign pages over the last few days, and I know that yesterday the foreign minister was in Russia meeting with the foreign minister of China, and this is obviously in relation to everything that's been going on. Shots fired for the first time in 45 years in the Western Himalayas. Do we know if that conversation in Russia has led to any kind of positive dialogue, and is this whole conflict de-escalating now, or is it something that the rest of the world needs to be wary of?
The reason Foreign Minister Jaishankar went to Russia and met with his Chinese counterpart is to do this exactly, is to de-escalate the situation, talk with his counterpart, make sure both sides understand what is necessary to be done. And like he said, we have to move back to status quo ante, the status that was there before things went awry in Galwan and in the frontier. And I'm sure he will succeed, and I'm sure both sides will understand that there is no progress that can happen if we don't resolve issues between us. And that is something everybody understands. But that's the hard part. What has happened over the years is because we have built up goodwill across the world, where people see India as a responsible country, which takes its responsibility seriously. There has been a lot of support for us at this time. And this is translated into what we are doing at present. We don't want to be seen as backing off, but we also don't want to show the other side that we are aggressive in any way. So I'm very confident that the discussions that took place in Russia will have a beneficial effect.
And how confident are you of the Indian press's freedom to express themselves without any kind of self-censorship, or indeed without any kind of control from the government?
Frankly, between you and me, I would love to see some control on the Indian press. They're sometimes worse than the British press. They write anything, they do anything. See, there are no controls. Self-censorship is a completely different thing. But the Indian press is one of the most free and open presses in the world. Sometimes they're too open, but then that's what we have to live with if we have to live in a democracy. And you know it far better than I do. You see yourselves from the tabloids to the newspapers, what they write. Sometimes they don't even check facts and write things. But the point with it is you need this. It's the whole right of people to speak up, to express themselves, to tell. And all that we do is an essentially part of that, is the ability to be able to express ourselves freely. You know of countries where you cannot express yourself. I don't have to tell you. You have a running relationship with a country which is trying to curb free speech in a state which you governed at one time. But the point is, we know what can happen if these things happen. And so we need an open press, no matter whether it is dangerous or not dangerous.
And of course, that's exactly what JLF is about. It's giving a platform to everybody of whatever point of view, and making sure that I mean, for instance, I know that I'm interviewing a journalist here on Sunday, and so many interesting conversations going along the entire time that the festival's on. So just before we end, I wondered if you could just tell us what's next on the agenda for ICCR.
A lot of things on the agenda. Like I said, we are putting up our own online platform, our own OTT platform, online art galleries. We're going online in a big way. But one of the other big things we are doing is there is a lack of understanding about India, its cultural ethos, its cultural manifestations, its cultural assets. A lot of people don't know. They find it strange, an exotic culture. So what we are doing is we are putting up knowledge capsules, a full series of knowledge capsules. So if you want to know why an Indian wears a sari in this way, why somebody wants to put a bindi on a head, why do you do rangoli, how do you make a naan, how do you do butter chicken? I mean, the host of knowledge capsules in one place, which will tell you everything you want to know about India in one place. So that's one of the big things we're planning to do.
Ambassador, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Georgina. It was really a pleasure.
And back to you, Ankur.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ambassador Patnaik and Georgina, for your time. We would be grateful if all of you would please consider donating to help make possible JLF London at the British Library, which is free to view by clicking on the donation link. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And we hope you will join us for our first session, which begins in exactly 18 minutes. The Essential Bernardine Evaristo, Girl, Woman, Other, in conversation with Anjum Hassan, and it will begin at 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time.
Hey! Hey, guys! Get the bags! Hurry up! Come on! Get the bags! I think there's someone there. Hey!
बैठो बैठो आ जाओ आ जाओ बैठ जाओ जी What?
Oh, look!
What?
This is so awesome.
Looks crazy, right?
I know.
आर्य को राजस्थान कुछ ऐसा दिखा.
Wow, we'll all fit? All of us? Helmets?
Welcome to the 7th edition of JLF London at the British Library. We are delighted to announce that the majestic state of Rajasthan, home to the annual Jaipur Literature Festival, has opened its stunning forts, palaces, lakes and wildlife sanctuaries for visitors with COVID-19 safety protocols. Come, sample our age-old traditions, craft, jewelry, textiles and cuisine. Welcome to Rajasthan and to Jaipur Literature Festival. Padharo Mare Desh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sri Alok Gupta, Principal Secretary, Government of Rajasthan, for all your support. Thank you so much.